Well, hello, Nativity Bible Heads. It is Dr. Wayne, and it is time for Sunday morning Power Bible Study. We are in 2 Samuel chapter 7 today. We're going to get a little piece of Psalm 89, and then Ephesians chapter 2 and Mark chapter 6. In our Old Testament lesson, we've been hearing snippets of the kingship of David, right? And he's been taking actions that has unified his power, unified his position as king, centralized worship in Jerusalem. And last week, I think it was the ark that came to Jerusalem. Now it is David's, it's this infamous passage where David basically says, oh, it's time for me to build a house for the Lord. And then the Lord says, no, it isn't. I'm going to build you a house. Yeah. So here it is, 2 Samuel chapter 7. Now, when the king was settled in his house, yeah, get that, in his house, and the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies around him, the king said to the prophet Nathan, see now, I am living in a house of cedar, but the ark of God stays in a tent. Yes, we read last week that when the ark was brought to Jerusalem, it got put in a certain place. Yeah, a tent which David had built. Well, that's the situation he's noting with his prophet. By the way, this is the first time we see the prophet Nathan. The prophet Nathan plays a very big role in David's life, and he ain't no Elisha, but he is David's Nathan. Nathan said to the king, "Go, do all that you have in mind, for the Lord is with you." Yeah, so Nathan kind of starts out a little bit like a yes man for David. David basically says, okay, so this thing, it says, I'm living in a house of cedar. Kings just love cedar. Cedar was that thing. It's like, oh yeah, cedar this, cedar that. They didn't grow cedar. They had to import it. They had to bring it from up north, Lebanon, the cedars of Lebanon. But it was a very royal kind of wood to be used, yeah, there you go. But the ark of God stays in a tent. So David's logic is that, I've done all this for myself. Maybe I should do something like that for the Lord too. Okay. David's motivation here is clear. He is solidifying his power. He is declaring basically that God is no longer on the move. God is here. Dangerous? Yes. Let's see how this goes. But that same night, the word of the Lord came to Nathan. Remember, after Nathan had said, oh yeah, sure, do everything you want to do. Go and tell my servant David. So remember, this is just the word of the Lord coming to Nathan. Thus says the Lord, are you the one to build me a house to live in? Yeah. I love that. It's like, it's as though God is saying, really? You're gonna build me a house to live in? Really? I have not lived in a house since the day I brought up the people of Israel from Egypt to this day. The Lord is basically saying, what makes you think I need/want a house? What's up with that? We've always been a people on the go. We've always been a people who've been moving. That's the reason why we've got the ark. It's portable. But I have been moving about in a tent and a tabernacle. It's like, I've been good with that. What's wrong with that? Wherever I have moved about among all the people of Israel, Did I ever speak a word with any of the tribal leaders of Israel, whom I commanded to shepherd my people Israel, saying, why have you not built me a house of cedar? I think this is dripping. It's dripping. The word of the Lord is dripping with sarcasm, and it really does bespeak another day and age where it starts to be realized, oh yeah, I guess the temple wasn't that big of a deal. There's even an element of like, well, that never really was a great idea. It just was something that kings do. Don't have any delusions here. David is trying to erect something to show the world something. And it's not entirely altruistically motivated. He is definitely wanting to set himself up as like, when you build buildings, that's when it's like, oh, everybody else can see that. It's really not entirely something of the Lord. It is always, there's something, a little self-motivation in there. Yeah. Verse 8. So remember, the word of the Lord is going to Nathan. This isn't actually going to David yet. Now, therefore, thus you shall say to my servant David, thus says the Lord of hosts, I took you from the pasture, from following the sheep, to be prince over my people Israel. A reference to David's boyhood as a shepherd, maybe, yes. Although the euphemism of shepherd over the sheep is also a euphemism for king. Notice this word for, it says to be prince. Remember, he was anointed to be the king designate while Saul was still king. So this word for prince isn't the word for king. It's the word more for ruler, but it definitely indicates that God's intention had all along had been like, there was already a king, and David, while there was a king, got put forward as the next king. God is basically saying, I did this. This has nothing to do with you. You're not special. There's nothing special about you. I'm the one who does this kind of thing. This is the way the Lord speaks. All right. And I have been with you wherever you went. Okay. Remember all of David's military campaigns, when he became a head of an army commander. He even was a time he was with the Philistines, remaining alive. Remember all the times that Saul tried to kill him. And I have been with you wherever you went, and have cut off all your enemies from before you. David knew a ton of military success. And I will make for you a great name, like the name of the great ones of the earth. So the Lord this is a way of like giving a litany of, after all I've done for you, you know that I've done this for you. You know you didn't earn it, but yet I'm the one who's decided to make you a great name. I will make for you a great name, like the name of the great ones of the earth. That's something I'm doing. Verse 10, and I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them so that they may live in their own place, and be disturbed no more. And evildoers shall afflict them no more as formerly, from the time that I appointed judges over my people Israel, and I will give you rest from all of your enemies. So the Lord's word to Nathan to give to David recites all that the Lord had done for the nation and for David. Moreover, the Lord declares to you that the Lord will make you a house. Yeah. You want to build me a house? You got it wrong. I'm going to make you a house. Verse 12. When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring after you, who shall come forth from your body, and I will establish his kingdom. Yeah, Solomon came after, and then the kingdom split, and then the only place where the Davidic heir was the king of Judah. Verse 13, he shall build a house. It's referring to David's son, Solomon. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son to me. That's all. The farther this passage goes, it does go on, but that's all we're doing in our worship. What we have here is what is commonly referred to as the Davidic covenant. This is the root bed, the seed bed of the messianic hope which arose in Israel. And when I say Israel, I mean Judah, because Israel went the way of, they didn't have a Davidic heir, and then they got captured first and exiled, and it didn't happen until Judah. The southern kingdom remained a Davidic throne, an heir to the Davidic throne all along. When the times came when that king no longer sat there, there was a relooking at is this really the promise of God? We're in a foreign land. There is no Davidic king. What's the deal with that? This is like I said, the seedbed of the messianic promises, the messianic ideal, the messianic hope of the people. The emphasis that we see a lot of you know what? I'm going to talk about this more after the psalm, because the psalm re-emphasizes this, okay? Let's look at that psalm. It's Psalm 89, just verses 20 to 37, okay? Let's do with that. And I'm reading from our Book of Common Prayer version. I have found David, my servant, and with my holy oil have I anointed him. My hand will hold him fast, and my arm will make him strong. No enemy shall deceive him, nor any wicked man bring him down. I will crush foes before him and strike down those who hate him. My faithfulness and love shall be with him, and he shall be victorious through my name. I shall make his dominion extend from the great sea to the river. He will say to me, you are my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation. I will make him my firstborn and higher than the kings of the earth. I will make him my firstborn. Interesting. I will keep my love for him forever, and my covenant will stand firm for him. I will establish his line forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. If his children forsake my law and do not walk according to my judgments, if they break my statutes and do not keep my commandments, I will punish their transgressions with a rod and their iniquities with the lash. But I will not take my love from him, nor let my faithfulness prove false. I will not break my covenant, nor change what has gone out of my lips. Once for all, I have sworn by my holiness, I will not lie to David. His line shall endure forever, and his throne as the sun before me. It shall stand forever like the moon, the abiding witness in the sky. And so, like I said, this is only a portion of Psalm 89. If you read the whole psalm, it goes on to a point of, but yet, what have you done? You haven't kept in the exile. when there was no king on the throne, people started to wonder, well, wait a second, Lord, but you said that was forever. What about that? You said that was forever. Well, okay, this is the beginning of the Messianic hope. What's the word Messiah mean? The word Messiah means anointed. The anointed is the king. The anointed is the next one to be king, right? The Lord's promise to David, okay? It's some scholars refer to it as the Davidic covenant. This covenant, when we see these words eternal, we don't know what eternal necessarily means in this context because, well, there was so much time. There has been so much time that has passed that there is no king, Davidic king. Well, this is why when the Messianic movement arose and the belief in the Davidic Messiah, why it was controversial. Jesus claimed to be the Messiah. Jesus claimed to be this. Well, and the gospel writers affirm this and go to great lengths to teach us that Jesus is the fulfillment of all of those hopes. Oh, well, if he is, then he truly is the fulfillment because there is no king in Israel. And the modern state of Israel is not like, you don't hear anybody saying, okay, we need to do a genealogy here and find out because we're supposed to have a king. And no, we don't have that. We've got, well, if you keep up with what's going on in Israel, it's a parliamentary type of government with a president, but the prime minister is really in charge and all of that. It's like, there's no king, there's no kingship, there's no Davidic blah, blah, blah. Well, this is why Jesus checks those boxes. The gospel writers reinterpreted the Davidic promise to be something that didn't need to be an earthly king. That's the significance of the cross, that's the significance of the resurrection, and that's the significance of why the early church saw its future to be out there instead of right here. The importance of the temple, the importance of Jerusalem, it wanes with the years. Let's go. It wanes with the years. Okay, let's go to Ephesians chapter 2 because it's going to allude to this. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 11 to 22. Now, in Ephesians, we have a writing of the Apostle Paul to a group of Christians, and listen to what he says to them. So then, remember that at one time you Gentiles by birth, called the uncircumcision by those who are called the circumcision, a physical circumcision made in flesh by human hands, remember that you were at that time without Christ, but being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers to the covenants of the promise, having no hope and without God in the world. Okay, so Paul's, his perspective is all of this, he knows the universality of the gospel message, right? And he's trying to remind the Gentiles that it's the grace of God that draws you in, right? You were strangers. Now you're just like one of the in crowd, okay? Remember, Paul's perspective was as a former Jew. But now, in Christ Jesus, you, who once were far off, have been brought near by the blood of Christ. The blood of Christ. The death of Christ, the death of the Messiah, the death of the Anointed One, the death of the Davidic hope. There could not be a ministry to the Gentiles if it wasn't for the death of the Davidic hope, the death of the Messiah, so that the Messiah could rise again and transform the theology of Davidic kingship and Israel's supremacy and all of that. For he is our peace. He is our shalom. Okay, I know shalom is a Hebrew word. This is written in Greek. He probably spoke it in Hebrew. It got written in Greek, but still the word is peace. He is our shalom. That's what the God of Israel does. So he's talking about, for he is our peace. In his flesh, he has made both groups into one, Gentile and Jews, and has broken down the dividing wall that is the hostility between us. The temple, if the temple were eternal and the Davidic kingship, the earthly Davidic kingship, if that were eternal, you know what? There would not be there wouldn't be a church. There wouldn't be this grand unification of what God started in Israel and the rest of the world. Verse 15, he has abolished, this is a strong word, he has abolished the law with its commandments and ordinances, that he might create in himself one new humanity in place of the two. Well, this is awesome. Thus making peace, and might reconcile both groups to God in one body through the cross, thus putting to death that hostility through it. The hostility of the cross symbolizes the internal enmity between competing ideologies. Verse 17, so he came and proclaimed peace to you who were far off, and peace to those who were near. For through him, both of us have access to in one spirit to the Father. So then, you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are citizens with the saints and also members of the household of God. It's like, it couldn't have happened any other way. Christ's death was a unifying thing. The death of the Messiah, the death of the anointed, the death of the messianic hope, and the misperceptions we had of what that meant and how it had to look, all that gets obliterated. And it opens up the borders. It opens up the walls. It results in unity. Built upon the foundation of, oh, look at this. But you are citizens with the saints and also members of the household of God. In verse 20, built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the cornerstone. This is temple language. This is temple language. This is language that puts forth it's like a metaphor. It's as though this new way of being metaphorically wraps up the hopes of what the temple was. It's like saying the church kind of is the temple renewed. You can think of it that way. The messianic hope, it's not in a place, it's not in a building. It's in what God has brought about in free salvation for all. In him, the whole structure is joined together. He keeps using this building imagery, and it's key because, especially if you tie it in with that temple thing of earlier, it's like, oh, there is an eternal temple. Now, in him, the whole structure is joined together and grows into a holy temple in the Lord. He even uses the word temple. In whom you also are built together spiritually into a dwelling place for God. What? Yeah. The temple of the Lord is eternal. It exists in his people. Oh, this is great. I'm still working on my sermon for Sunday. So I'm still getting some thoughts around it, and I don't know, it might not sound a whole lot different than what you're hearing clues in right now. But we'll see how that sounds, shall we? We don't know. I'm going to move on to the gospel now, Mark chapter 6, verses 30 to 34. Now, this passage from Mark is the third week in a row we've had Mark chapter 6. Yeah, third week in a row we've had Mark chapter 6. We had it started out 2 weeks ago when I actually preached on this, when Jesus sends out his and commissions his apostles to do some things after they had a failure, disaster at Nazareth. Well, in verse 30 is when they actually come back. It says, the apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. So this is the report back. There was the episode in between was that that retrospective look to John the Baptist and the disciples and Herod and all that. He said to them, come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while. So they go out, they do their mission work. Let's go to a deserted place. The word is the same word for wilderness, which is similar to what Jesus visited the wilderness, when temptations, reminiscent of the time of the wilderness of Israel. The time of the wilderness theologically progressed into a point of, wow, that was the ideal time. The wilderness was the ideal time. And if you think about it, there's no temple, wilderness, that temple. The idea of a temple when you're in the wilderness didn't even exist then. This is pre-temple. It was during the time of they had the tabernacle, but they didn't even find out about the tabernacle until they got to the wilderness. So the wilderness is a place for birthing some. Oh my goodness, I hear a sermon coming in. Yeah, the wilderness is a place where birthing things comes out of. Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while. Okay. For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. This isn't the first time we've seen this mentioned in the Gospel of Mark, that Jesus was so busy that he didn't have time to eat. This now it refers to all of them. And verse 32, and they went away in the boat to a deserted place by themselves. Again, wilderness. When you go off in a boat, one way to definitely get away from the crowds is go away in a boat, right? Well, look what happens. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. So it's like, oh, we know where they're going. And they, scuttled along the shore. I've seen the shore of the Sea of Galilee, the lake, but it's like, I don't know how you could tell they were going that way. I'm not nautically inclined, so I guess I don't really know how they could tell, but they did. Now, as he went ashore, verse 34, as he went ashore, guess what? He saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them, because they were like sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. Okay, there's verses 35 to 52, which we don't talk about here because it's not in our lection for this week, but it goes into this feeding of the 5,000 and the walking on water, I think even, yeah, and the walking on water incident. But this is a good way. I like what our lection has done because it ties in the themes of what we had in Ephesians and with what we had in 2 Samuel. And notice Jesus saw them as sheep, like sheep without a shepherd. That's royal imagery. Kings were shepherds over the sheep. Jesus saw them like a shepherd would see his sheep, like a king, like a Davidic heir, like the Messiah. Notice it says he had compassion on them. One of the things you'll never see Mark do, even though the disciples, they get a bad rap all the way through the Gospel of Mark. But you know who never gets a bad rap? The people, the multitudes, the crowds. They never get a bad rap. They never get put down for like, oh, there they go again, following Jesus. Well, what are you going? They're always, and Jesus' response to them is always compassion and love. Jesus never rebukes the crowds. Jesus rebukes his disciples. Jesus rebukes those evil spirits. Jesus never rebukes the crowds. Interesting. Verses 53 to 56 is where we end. When they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret and moored the boat. When they got out of the boat, people at once recognized him. So they took another boat trip, obviously, and rushed about that whole region and began to bring the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. So this is, and wherever he went, into villages or cities or farms, they laid the sick in the marketplaces and begged him that they might touch even the fringe of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed. The reason why we have these two things put together is canonically it's a good accompaniment for the presentation of Jesus as the logical heir to the promise that God made to David. And notice the bringing of the sick. No, we don't have instances of David the king healing people. We do, though, of the prophet Elisha in the time of King Jehoram of the northern kingdom. And Jesus definitely is fulfilling an expectation. He's fulfilling an expectation that the people themselves they wanted to believe in, but they didn't know if they could or if they should. And I'm talking about the Davidic king, all of that, and what the Davidic king represented, which means, and now, like in the book of Acts, and now is it time to return the kingdom to Israel, Lord? The presentation of Jesus as the Messiah is an eternal checking of the box, if you will, of all of God's promises to David. That's been done. There's nothing more to do there. There's no temple to be built back in Jerusalem or to be built anywhere for that matter. We are that temple. That's the temple that we heard Paul talk about in the book of Ephesians. Whew, I'm just getting all kinds of ideas from my sermon here. I'm going to stop though because I got to get this sermon written. And so if you listen to this before you see me preach, you're like, wow, he got it done in 26 minutes. Blessings on your day. Peace.